Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast talking about all things Ubiquiti. This is UI Chat from the interface. My name's Alex and I'm joined by my co-host Willie Howe from YouTube. Welcome, Willie.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Excellent. How are you today?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, all good. So for those who are new to this podcast, this is a brand new show me and you are doing. So it's going to be a monthly episode, about 15 minutes to half an hour, and we're just going to look at the news, the Ubiquiti news, new products, new software that the company has launched in the last 4 weeks. And also we're going to have a look at what Ubiquiti videos you've been making, because for those who don't know, you make Ubiquiti videos and also networking videos on YouTube, and they're all very good. So we'll get straight into it. So last month there was a few new devices launched. We had the new unified Dream Wall as well. We also had the U6 Enterprise. So we'll look at the U6 Enterprise. So this is a very sort of quite a large in-wall access point.
It is. It's like two regular in-walls side by side.
Now, based on installs you've done before, would this be like a usable product for things, or?
So here's the thing with Ubiquiti, right? They're pretty good, and you know, thanks to those of us like yourself and me and some of the other creators, you know, sometimes there's kind of a hype machine and a hype train, with some of these. So when I look at an in-wall access point, I don't like it to be much bigger than the gang box that I'm mounting it on. And I know a lot of my customers like a lower profile, right? If we're going to do an in-room, and there are a lot of 4-star, 5-star hotels that say that, you know, in their requirements, you have to have an in-wall, you know, in-room AP in every room. Now, as more and more devices get Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, maybe I can see people adopting this. But here's the thing. You remember when TP-Link, Omada came out with their first Wi-Fi 6 AP, and a lot of us did videos on it, and this thing was huge. It was like the size of a dinner plate and like 2.5, 3 inches thick.
It's huge.
So I think what'll happen is when you see this, the U6 Enterprise, I think with everything else, I think we'll see it start getting smaller. You know, I do think they're going to sell a lot of these units just because of, faithful, you know, Ubiquiti customers, right? So they'll sell a ton of them just for that. For new installs, I don't know. I just quoted an install, and we were using the standard in walls. We didn't quote the Enterprise.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of our installs that are going to be hanging around for 4 to 5 years probably still aren't going to use Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E, right? So I don't know that this is necessarily a niche product. I think it is like some other things that they do where it's going to push the ball forward, and you're going to see other developments come out of this.
Yeah, definitely. I've only used one of them in my house. It seems to work quite well. It's a area I just wanted very small coverage. I didn't want to leak into other rooms, so the low gain of the main wall seemed to help that. But yeah, it's quite an expensive unit. So for reference, the standard U6 in-wall is £171 here in the UK. And this huge U6 Enterprise isn't even on sale here yet, but it's $299 in the US. So it's probably about a half, like double, 50% more, which I'm not sure. We'll have to see how people use it, but it's $299 in the US.
Well, and to turn up all of the features, you have to power it with 802.3 BT, right? So you got to have that PoE++, which now are you buying power bricks? Are you going to invest in a switch that does PoE++? Because here's the thing, you know, in the past, Ubiquiti switches with PoE have been very affordable. The prices, I think this is true across the board. I don't think this is necessarily a Ubiquiti problem. I think this is a technology supplier problem. You know, these newer PoE switches that can do the plus, they're not cheap, right?
No, they're quite expensive.
Are we going back to the days? Do you remember? Because you had a Wisp, right?
I used to work for a Wisp, back a few years ago, yeah.
So do you remember back in the day when we all got started and we just had the 24-volt power bricks just absolutely everywhere, and everybody would like zip tie them to the wall and screw them to the wall, and everybody was proud of that, and then the switches became affordable, so everybody started moving to the switches. So I don't know if we're returning to the day where you're going to see just a ton of these PoE++ power bricks all over the place until the switches become affordable, but that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, so just for reference, you can power the U6 Enterprise in-wall by AT PoE. But if you want to use the PoE pass-through on port 1, you have to use BT.
Correct.
Yeah, but that will only output at AF on port 1, so it's like any other in-wall device.
But I would also, so I don't know if you've messed with the U6 Enterprise, not the in-wall, but the standard U6 Enterprise.
No, not yet. No.
It doesn't have a pass-through, but even if you plug it into just a PoE Plus, Unify will tell you to be able to use this device fully, all of its features, you have to plug it into PoE++. So, and then also the main uplink is 2.5 gig, right? So there's a lot of considerations from the wire to the router.
Yeah. Do you think the extra power requirements are due to the fact that those devices have got 3 radios now? You've got 6, 2.5, and 2.4. It could be.
I think it is. I think it is 3 radios, and I think it is, along with that uplink being 2.5 gig, to be able to push all of that throughput and to power those radios appropriately, you're going to have the extra power. And Ubiquiti is just one of the companies pushing, the BT standard. But if you look at some of their other offerings, I don't want to get too far off the rails, but like if you look at the Connect, they've got 27-inch monitors that are powered, and so I think 802.3 BT that's where we're heading, right? Yeah. And it'll obviously negotiate down, but I think you're going to see even higher limits on PoE in the future, but I don't know how much we can actually push down a Cat 6 cable,
I'm not sure what the limit is. We're probably approaching that limit because of the air fibers, they use 54 volts, so that must be around that power requirement, but they're not using any active PoE, so it'd be interesting to see how far we can go with it.
Until we let out the magic smoke.
Yeah. The next bit of news was the tail end of March. It's not quite in April, but we are covering a few little bits. So we've got the unified Dream Wall. So I know Chris and Cody have already done on videos on the Dream Wall. I'm on mixed what do you call it? Sort of mixed ground with the Dream Wall. I'm not too sure if it's going to be the thing. It's sort of, we don't really have it here in the UK, but I know I was speaking to someone from the US, and this is more of the size of a fuse. What do you call it? A breaker box, or I think that's what you call it. Yeah,
and there's some other boxes that you see in new construction that they put in your I don't know, your laundry room or your media room, and it's like a white metal box that is set into the wall, and they run all your coax and your Ethernet in there. So I will tell you, I've asked Ubiquiti to send me one of these, and there's some requirements around it because the product is selling pretty well already.
Okay.
And I think when Chris did his video, he was using the EA version that he bought, so the hardware is not the same.
That's right.
And so I'm excited to get one of the new ones with the bigger screen on it and see what other hardware changes have been made under the hood. And that's why they don't want us doing videos on EA products. And I really try to respect that. I've seen, if you look at my pictures, in fact, you liked one of my pictures that I posted on Twitter yesterday, which was a new Unify setup with a UDM SE and all the APs that's going to go out to a customer. And if you look behind the network gear, there's a white box laying on the arm of the chair, and that's actually a product that never made it out of EA. That is the Ethernet over power. Yeah, and I continue to use that, and when my units don't work anymore, that is going to be a sad day because I have a stable 40 to 50 megabit connection anywhere in my house when I plug that in. So I'm not limited to working in just one room, and I definitely get a better connection than Wi-Fi. What I'm excited about that Dream Wall is first to get one that's not EA, but I where I really see maybe this being advantageous is maybe we're going to see new home builders get into this market where they are speccing network, right, when they're building homes. And so for somebody that doesn't want to put in a rack, when they want to continue to sink these like boxes in the wall like we've been talking about,
Yep.
This thing will mount right in there. All the Ethernet cables will be hidden. You wouldn't even know that there's any gear in the house. So I kind of see that. I see that for people renovating homes where they want to hide. They're not everybody's a geek like you and I, where they want to show this equipment off. You know what I mean?
You want it to be out of the way.
And right, they want it to just run. I did think it was really interesting when Ubiquiti released their promo materials on it. They went back and they talked about how AT&T created that 19-inch rack standard.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And then they started talking about how they are reintroducing it. I think, and here's what we've noticed, right? There are other vendors who are catching up to Ubiquiti, doing some things better. But Ubiquiti, love them or hate them, they're like the Tesla of IT, right? Whether they are the best or whatever, they are innovating and they are pushing the envelope and pushing these things forward. So they've got a ton of R&D in these products. We haven't even seen the Pro come to EA yet, right?
No,
so
exactly.
In the US, I know it was released, I think, in Europe, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this form factor works out moving forward. Because do you remember the front row camera?
I do, yeah.
So for the listeners that may not remember it, front row camera was a wearable action camera that Ubiquiti came out with, and it was a flash in the pan. It didn't last. I don't think it lasted a year. I've still got mine, but when you look at the format, the physical format of that device, that is now our card readers and stuff for UID, to let you into your building. So
yep.
It's super interesting to see how they reuse designs and how things all flow together. I, for one, am excited for the UDM. I can't wait to get my hands on one. And I want to see where they take this all-in-one networking kind of to the next level. I don't think it's ever going to replace 19-inch rack mount standard gear, but I do think there is definitely a market for it.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe, as you said, maybe more in homes and businesses, because businesses have a dedicated IT team, that sort of thing.
Right.
So just for some information, so it's as you said, it's quite a huge white box, about the same size as the breaker box in the US. 16 Ethernet ports on it. All of them, I think, all of them do PoE at some standards. So you've got BT, AT, and AF on all of them.
Yep.
Some of them don't have BT. There's also a 10 gig SFP plus port for LAN, and then you've got 2 WAN ports like the UDM SE. You've got a 10 gig SFP plus port, and then a 2.5 gig RJ45. And of course, you can do all the WAN failover and load balancing. It's on sale now in the US. It's actually in stock and it's $999, so about $1,000. So yeah.
Yeah. Which if you take a look and you break it down, right? And we had these conversations when the UDMs came out and the UDRs. When you take a look at the gear that's actually inside of these boxes, and you break it down, what it would cost you to piece it together,
100%. Yeah.
It's really not a bad price.
No, especially as we mentioned just a minute ago about the BT switches being expensive. You've got quite a few. I think got 4 BT ports. So there's you can do quite a lot with that. So that's quite good. Cool.
Yeah.
The next bit isn't really relevant for me or you, but it's Unified Talk is now out in Canada. So I remember Cody was quite excited about this coming out to Canada. So yeah, Unify Talk's been out for a little while, and Unify Talk it's not the first thing they've tried. I used their initial VoIP phones ages ago at work. I used it as sort of as a standalone phone. I plugged in the SIP details, and it seemed to work pretty well. This has been out for about 2 years now. I think you've had a play with Unify Talk, haven't you?
So yeah, I still have some of those original phones, and we actually use the original Unify Talk phones with a Grandstream PBX or with free PBX, and they work great. You can't update them, obviously, but we do support Unify Talk, and we do have some customers who have gone out. One of our biggest installs is about 40 phones. We're helping them kind of work through it, but it is a single site, they are persistent this time with Unify Talk, and they keep adding features and things like that. So I can't wait to see where it ends up, to see if it's going to be, I hope they don't end of life it. I'll say that. I want to see it, keep getting new features, because under the hood, it's FreeSwitch, right? And FreeSwitch is just as powerful as Asterisk, which is what most other PBXs run. And so I really hope it does stay in production. And we've done brand new installs. The biggest brand new install we've done, I think, is 6 phones and some very basic requirements. Anything other than that, we do switch over to another vendor for that. But the thing that I find interesting is that some of the features, I was really excited when they came out with voicemail transcription. But for that to work, you have to buy their service, right? You have to pay that $9.99 a month per line. But some of the other details that I think is kind of interesting is you can do the locked phones and get them a little cheaper. The pricing in Canada, I think is interesting, and I'm assuming it has to do with regulatory and how taxes and things are charged there.
Yeah.
Do you know, have they added the number porting yet?
No, so that's not available yet. No, it's not. So there's only 2 phones available as well. You've only got the unlocked phones are on sale. They're not selling the locked phones, and they are.
Those aren't available in Canada.
No, so I think when you look at the dollar amount for the US and Canada, I think the Canada one is a higher number, but I'm not sure about the conversion rate. But the smaller phone is $269, and then the larger phone is $399. I'm not sure how it works out in normal US dollars, but yeah. So the
it's
number...
about 1.5 times.
Okay, that makes sense
when you look at
yeah. So the number porting not available, and the unlocked phones in the US are obviously a bit more expensive than the locked ones. The locked ones are actually quite a good deal, really. So, for example, the smaller phone Touch, the 5-inch one, is $79 in the US, and then it's $79 for the locked one, and then it's $199 for the unlocked one. So it's quite a bit more, really. Obviously, they also want you to use the subscription. So
right, and that's a thing too. And when you look at some of the other subscriptions, I had a customer who called me, and they were using UID, and they signed up for the paid plan, and they got an unexpected $5,000 charge, right?
Oof.
And so we're working through that. But here's the thing, people. What people don't understand is Ubiquiti can only sell so much hardware, right? And so at some point, they're going to have to start charging for these services if people want to be able to keep using them. So, and I think there's always going to be a market for some of this stuff, especially if they keep innovating and adding features. That the $12.99 per month with no number porting, I think that might be a hard pill for some folks to swallow right now, because they can't switch providers.
Yep.
Now you've got this situation where I've got a new DID or a new phone number, and now I've got to forward my old one, and I got to keep, and it just becomes kind of a management mess.
Yeah.
But let's hope that they keep this up, and it's been really interesting to watch the features come through. And I will tell you that some of the features of Talk are really, they're fantastic, and they are doing some things better than other vendors for sure, especially the when you can type in and create the where it will generate the voice for the auto attendant for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody else in this price range or maybe even in general. We tried to limit the number of PBXs that we offer. Nobody else, I don't think, is doing it at this price range. And,
Yeah.
the only other thing I want to say too is we've been recommending that if people are running it, that they get a Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. And if they want to rack mount it, get the rack mount accessory for that. But we've been recommending that people run this on its own device, kind of as a standalone phone system. It's really affordable. In the U.S., the Cloud Key Gen 2 is $199, and then the rack mount I think is $79 or $89, and it's really affordable to do that, and just because we don't want to overload the gateway, right? The UDM Pro, the SE, the UDR, it's just like I was talking to someone last night that we're taking on as a customer, and he's got a UDM SE, and he was talking about wanting to tinker with talk. UID is already a full go for them, but looking at the cameras, and I said, well, how many cameras do you have? And he's like, 24 cameras. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Let's make sure that we put this on its own, UNVR. And he's like, it's funny you said that, because I went ahead and ordered it. So if you're going to run talk, if you're just going to tinker with it and mess around with it, I think it's probably okay to run on the consoles. But if you're going to run it in production as a phone system that, you don't want to just tinker with, I would definitely recommend putting it on a Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus.
Yeah, the big thing. So I picked up a few of the ATAs last year when they were quite cheap. They're now a bit expensive. So I've had a chance to play around with them. I've also got the Flex phone. It does actually work here. As long as you just tell it you're in the US, it seems to connect fine. There seems to be a server. There seems to be a server in the EU that it's connecting to, because I've got like 30 milliseconds of latency to the newest server, which is quite good. But the big thing is the call recording. So I've looked at certain providers, and they charge you tons to record the calls. It's like per minute. And if I remember rightly, I think all the call recording on the Unified Talk goes to the hard drive of the Cloud Key, which is, it's again, like with Protect and like with Talk, then they're doing much more local stuff, which is, it's what we need really.
Right. And I think that's where they're going to have an advantage. Grandstream also does that. And that's our main PBX that we use, but you're absolutely correct. Keeping all of that voice local, not letting some provider analyze it without you knowing. There's all kinds of privacy concerns and things like that. And I think that Ubiquiti will continue to be successful as long as they keep that model.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a huge, like with Protect, such a huge differentiator that you can't really pick up many cheap, but affordable camera systems which do local recording. It's such a big thing, so it's good. Cool. The next thing is, this was released a few weeks ago. It's the version 3.0.7, so Unify OS 3 for the UXG Pro. I've been messing around with the UXG Pro for about a year now, sort of using it in a lab for Hostify videos. But yeah, this is basically bringing a lot of the features from the UDM SE over to the UXG Pro. So we've got ad blocking, we've got WireGuard VPN, Open VPN tunnels as well for traffic routes. There's loads and loads of new features, which is great. Have you got a UXG Pro at all? Or?
I do, and we actually recommend those for customers that have USGs. We recommend UXG as a drop-in replacement. We also have run into, customers who are trying to do large properties with like a UDM Pro, and they want to run Protect. So you start running into resource contention and some poor performance and things like that. And so we tell them, okay, let's go ahead and, move the UDM somewhere else. Let's drop in a UXG and a Cloud Key, and the performance goes through the roof. I love this product. I can't wait to see if they're going to come out with something that's a little smaller, for somebody that doesn't need. Yeah. And the thing is, I think a ton of MSPs, if they come out with a box that's about half the size, when you look at like the old USG, I think it's going to be a slam dunk, and I think they're going to sell 1 million of them.
Yeah.
And I I know just from the access that I have to people's controllers, which if you're listening to this and you haven't worked with me for more than 6 months, please remove my access to your controller. But the amount of controllers that I have with USGs, I mean, I probably have access to 12 to 1,500 networks that have USGs. And I know that as soon as they release something that's half the size, but it's still this next gen gateway concept, everybody's going to move to replace it, and I really applaud them for bringing this up to feature parity with everything else.
Yeah.
And it's an easier sell now,
It was the UXG Pro was such a sort of, it seemed a little bit cursed to start with because it was in EA for so long and everyone thought, oh, this isn't going to launch, and then it eventually did. So it's, I love using it. It's got such a great amount of features, and it's you don't have to use a proper console for it, which is good.
I see where when you go to buy this in the Ubiquiti store in the US at least, they have it under a heading called routing offload.
I noticed that. Yeah. And
so I think, I'm speculating, and I don't know any more about this than you do, and this is not coming from a place of knowledge that I shouldn't say this out loud.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see this be able to be nested behind the other, the UDMs, the UDM Pros. I think you're going to be able to see this nested and controlled with the same controller. And I think another thing that's interesting when you look at the UDM software, if you go into the advanced system settings, there's a place in there in the UDMs to set the adoption URL. And there's a device in EA that's about $5,000. We probably shouldn't talk about. I see all of this kind of coming together in a big way. I hope I'm right. There's no official roadmap, so somebody put it up when they hear this, and we'll see if Alex and I are right.
Yeah, I remember when the UXG Pro was launched, they haven't changed that heading at all. I thought the exact same thing as you. I thought, okay, it's going to be sort of offloading that because routing's quite a CPU intensive thing, so just offload that to the UXG Pro would be quite a good thing if they do that. More software stuff. So this has been sort of people have been waiting for this for ages. So it's Unify OS 3 for the little UDM base and then the UDM Pro. I don't know much about software development, but there seems to me that there wasn't much reason, based on what the UDM SE is, it's just a UDM Pro with some extra PoE ports. I don't think there's any sort of underlying architecture differences, but obviously things internally with Ubiquiti had different priorities and things, and it annoyed a lot of people that this has taken so long to get to the UDM Pro. I can understand that if you've paid $400 or whatever for the UDM Pro, however much it is, and it just you get to see another product that's been launched and it hasn't got the features yet. It's just like, what's going on? But credit where credit's due. About 10 days ago, Ubiquiti released UDM version 3 for the UDM and UDM Pro. It's basically brought these two devices up to speed with the UDM SE. Sorry, so we've got all those features that those devices have had for ages, like WireGuard VPN and the ad blocking, that sort of thing. So it's good.
Yeah, and it actually just hit general release 3 days ago. So it was release candidate, and it's one of those things. And I know there were other folks that were releasing videos, but I always get kind of nervous when it hits RC.
Me too.
Just because I've seen so many releases go to RC and then the next day they get pulled back. So I kind of waited, before I did that. But there's really a UDM or a Unify OS device really for everybody's use case at this point, and everybody's kind of price point.
Yep.
And I think that depth of offering is really going to serve them well. And I will tell you, just from the comments on my video, you're right. People were very excited to see this, to see that feature parity. I'm very excited to see the feature parity because now I don't have to try to mix and match devices. And if I don't need PoE on the gateway, I can use a UDM or a UDM Pro. Now, obviously the standard UDM still can't run other applications, but it is a routing beast. So I'm excited to see where they take this.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll put the link to the Ubiquiti release post in the show notes. But there's a ton of comments. There's like ton of comments, about 70,000 views. So people obviously they love that. About a few days ago, I noticed so for quite a while, Ubiquiti have had network.unify.ui.com, and this was the place you'd go to have your Gen 1 cloud keys, also your self-installs. So if you've got a Hostify controller or any self-installs on Linux or whatever, that would be the place you go to, and the branding on it's very out of date, and it's still available. You can still use that site, but there's now an extra tab or extra side panel within unify.ui.com. So unify.ui.com was the place you go to, is the place you go to view all your Unify OS consoles, so cloud keys, UDM Pros, and then the UNVRs as well. There's now this extra little panel called Network Servers, and this is where those devices live. So if you've got a Gen 1 cloud key, well, first of all, you need to stop using it because it's not supported anymore. But also any self installs are all in there, so it's a little bit more seamless to view all your controllers, which is it's great to see.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day. The button just kind of appeared. So for those of you who are listening to us, if you go to unify.ui.com, on the left-hand side, it's going to be the bottom icon on the left-hand side. And it's I don't know, at first I was like, is that a shovel? Like I couldn't figure out what it was at first. And then I clicked on it, and everything was there. And then do you know, is the icon above that showing up for everybody, or do you have to be an EA for the icon above that to show up?
You have to have, so even if you're in the EA program, it won't show up initially. You have to have a server running a specific version for new features. If I put that
so
as transparently as I can.
I was going to say, we probably shouldn't talk about it yet, but man, when we're able to talk about that feature, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Let's just say that it's a feature that everybody's been asking for since the UDMs came out. You're about to get it.
Yep. Good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you have to be running a certain version for it to show up, which is, if you want to learn more about what we're on about, just go to the EA section on the forum. So cool. That's all the Ubiquiti news. It's been a relatively quiet month compared to most. I remember early in the year there was absolutely tons of stuff launched, but hopefully as we record more episodes, the months coming will be a bit more rich of news. Just have a quick chat about what videos you've got on your channel that you've launched the last few weeks.
So last weekend, so I manage a network that spans 100 acres. I did a video that talks about that and draw out what is fiber interconnects, what is wireless backhauls, and the technologies from Ubiquiti. It is a complete Ubiquiti network. Uh-huh. Everything from the router to the backhauls to, everything, even the SFPs, even the cabling we run outside, we run tough cable because I don't ever want there to be any finger pointing in a network that large, right?
Yeah.
Then I talked about Unify switch port security. So I'm actually going to do a video looking at the edge switch and that as well. But if you're not familiar with what switch port security is, just a high level overview is we're able to basically disable a port on a switch if it sees a MAC address that is not the device that we want on that port.
Yep.
So that's coming for the edge side. But then I also yesterday released my Unify OS 3.0.20 video. So
awesome.
A lot of Ubiquiti content coming, a lot, and then hopefully my contact over there will drop that dream wall, in the mail, and we'll see if we can get one of those busted out. But it is on our list. We are going to start doing some Unify Talk videos. Just because we've got so many people that reach out and are already using it, they're already invested. Yeah. And so we are going to do some videos about how to take care of some basic maintenance and make some basic changes. So that's coming as well.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us for this very first episode of UI Chat from Willie Howe and me. If people want to find more about you, where can they find you?
So they can find me at williehowe.com. or they can find me on Twitter at Willie Howe. You can find me on YouTube at Willie Howe. And then there's some other social media sites that I'm on. But once you get to williehowe.com, you can basically find everything from there or from the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we'll put the links down in the show notes. If you listen to this on YouTube, which is something you can do, they'll be in the description as well. Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Alex.